Viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome to the internet, have a look around. All the different types of porn to think of can be found. We have mountains of content, so try to act cool. Don't let me catch you gooning inside a school. Okay, but in all seriousness, I don't actually know how to play the piano. I'm sure anybody who actually does could probably tell.
What the fuck is that?
Look, I'm not musically talented, okay? That's what my brother is for.
Did we just make the song of the nuclear winter?
I gotta stop, acting like a complete psychopath on camera. I am one filmed mental breakdown away from being committed into a psych ward.
Off the walls, got the gall, acting like we're funny. Hit the floor, out the door, shoot till it's over. Small town, big plans, welcome to October.
Welcome back to the unhinged world of social media influencers and stars. I'm a lazy bedhead coming to you live from your computer screens, begging and screaming for someone to please get me out of here! Don't leave me here! Michael! Michael! Michael, get me out of here! Someone help! Well, that was weird. Anyway, being an online influencer is more desired now than ever. I mean, it's one of the most flexible employment options out there. You're basically your own boss. You make your own schedule, and depending on how much you post and how many views your videos get is dependent on how much you're paid. That's kind of the only shitty part about it. Whatever, I've been doing it for a bit, and I'm grateful that y'all are allowing me the privilege to do so. But a lot of people want to do what I do without that same merit. And what I mean is, I like to accredit a lot of my success to being like a good editor and artist and having that recognized on a mass scale. Oh, it's such a dream for me. Thank you, guys. But look, the truth is not everyone is as talented and sexy as me. Sometimes people are untalented and butt-fucking ugly. And that is an unfortunate combination. And when you've got absolutely nothing going for you, it's kind of hard to market yourself as like a social media influencer because, well, that's what a lot of this is. It's marketing. I'm selling you on my personality, and if you can't sell yourself on that, then you can at least sell yourself on talent. But what if you don't have either of those things? What do? You get a little silly. YouTube has been around for 20 years. That's like the majority of my life. And if there's one thing I've learned from having YouTube in my youth and growing up with the platform is that online fame is like a drug. Sometimes the chase for that algorithmic high can make people do questionable things, especially if money is involved, in which case, in this economy, people will do fucking anything. And that seems to be what this story is all about. To what lengths will people go for the thrill of that precious e-money? Well, apparently, looking like a fucking pedophile was worth the shekels of OnlyFans fame and fortune. Was it worth it? Probably not, because that's just all you're known for now, and honestly, low-key, that's a little embarrassing. If you don't know what I'm talking about, let me catch you up to speed. This is Michael Duvall, and this is how OnlyFans money ruined his reputation.
What's up, girlie? I got a package from one of my online besties. His name is Ishmael, so let's open this up together. Even the box is pink. I'm so excited for this.
Michael Duvall is a TikTok creator with almost 1 million followers, over 650,000 on Instagram, and over 100,000 on YouTube. His content consists of what I would describe as lifestyle content. You know, showing what he does in his day-to-day life, get ready with me, fashion hauls, fashion showcases, and a very girly expression and home decor and personality. Michael has been posting content since at least 2016 on Instagram at the earliest, but his TikTok account started around 2019. There are a couple of things that I think helped Michael draw a massive audience, and I want to explore this because I think it paints a shocking juxtaposition to what we later learn about Michael. So let's break this down. What did people like about this man? What made him unique? What made him stand out? Well, first of all, Michael has a very specific aesthetic and used that to build up a brand for himself. What I mean by this is Michael has a very specific decor style. Pink. Lots and lots of pink. He has a pink room, a pink toy room, pink kitchenette set, pink living room set, wears a bunch of pink all over the place. Now, ignoring that we most commonly associate pink to females, and most of his audience was female because girls like the color pink. Pink is a girl's color. I think this is very endearing to those who really like house decor and design to see one color scheme in a house and presentation. Like, you know, I'm looking at this man's like decoration style and what he likes his house to look like, and honestly, I think it's pretty damn cute. Admittedly, I don't think pink works very well on me, but like, it works well with him, and I think it's great. Okay, so the second thing is that Michael was making a lot through social media, but always maintained some level of relatability. Like, sure, Michael could easily live off of TikTok and YouTube, but he still continued to work like regular W-2 jobs, regardless of the revenue streams that he could have just lived off of being self-employed. On top of that, the guy lived in a trailer in Louisville, Kentucky. He wasn't one of those like Cali girly pops with millions of followers releasing fashion lines and getting on billboards for wearing pink. Nah, he was just a trailer park boy in his little pink trailer in a deep red state. I mean, talk about persevering. Speaking of which, the final thing that people liked about Michael was the fact that he was an openly gay man in a Republican area, getting his hair and makeup done, his nails all done up. He takes care of his trailer home, turning it into a pink paradise. Which, I mean, if you know anything about like renting trailers, you know that customization is pretty much impossible unless you're like renting to own. And even then, sometimes trailer park owners can be nosy as hell. So yeah, I'm a little bit jealous that Michael got to turn their home into the Barbie dream trailer. What of it? But yeah, people just enjoyed a person who was very much into an aesthetic, openly and unapologetically gay and pink and femme and confident in his own masculinity. All the reason to be happier when Michael did eventually make enough money to move into a home and move out of the trailer. I mean, I low-key kind of miss the trailer vibes because honestly, kind of vibey, I'm not gonna lie. This is when he was at his most relatable, but that doesn't mean there weren't some hiccups down the road.
I feel so like disappointed in myself. I feel like other people are disappointed in me, and it's probably so freaking stupid, but...
So there were a few things that happened that had people sort of critical of Michael. A lot of his personality came across as like very elitist, but like in a sarcastic way. But people were kind of peeling back this valley girl, nice girl persona that he put on for content, it seems. In the beginning, people viewed Michael as very humble, very real. But the money became more and more of a priority, and the motivator in his content became pretty evident. I think that just kind of comes from fame and fortune. You kind of lose your ability to be humble at times. Like, this man went from like DIY home decorating a trailer to living in a house with these massive windows. I mean, look at this place. It is giant. Like, remember when the ceilings were this low? You know how crazy that is? And I think that just kind of comes with not always acknowledging the privilege that comes with having a job like this. You know, you're really just making money through filming videos on a phone, and it can be more money than any other job if you're lucky. So a lot of people will kind of just forget that this job is more than just your hard work. It's an audience that is also uplifting that. A big reason that I can still do this is because of Patreon because my supporters want to financially help out. I am at the mercy of their support. I can make all of these videos, these fancy edited videos, all I want. If it weren't for you guys, it wouldn't amount to anything. I'd still probably be making them for fun, it just wouldn't be my job at that point. It would be a hobby. I can work hard on videos all I want. If it all goes unnoticed, I don't have the same impact. Michael got noticed. He appealed to a broad demographic like gays, femmes, queers, people who like pink. So he has all of that to thank, but for many, it just seems like he really only cared about how far he could go rather than how he got that far. A good example of this was Blanket Gate, as the snarks call it. He has a snark page. That's where I'm getting most of this from. Thank you. This is Ashley Steele. She makes custom-made graphic design blankets, hoodies, and t-shirts. She made a custom blanket for Michael, and it had Barbie on it, his catchphrase, "Hey girlies," all over it. So Michael films an unboxing video for all the mail that he's received from his fans, featuring that blanket. And at first, he seems really thankful.
Oh my god, I see my name. It says Barbie and Michael. Hello girly, hello girly, hello girly, hello girly. And it's got Barbie on it. It says hello girly all over it. This is so cute. Someone obviously had it like custom made for me. That's so cute. Thank you so much. I love that.
Until he tosses the blanket over his shoulder while sorting what he considers his goodies and what is trash.
Make sure I keep my goodies together, my trash together.
This got a lot of people upset because from the way that he says this to how he kind of tosses this blanket over his shoulder, it sounded like he was gonna toss this custom-made blanket in the trash. When I watch it back, it kind of looks like he was trying to multitask, like he's talking while sort of doing whatever it is he's doing in front of him. And we can only really see what he's putting behind him. We don't see what he's sorting out in front of him. So maybe what's happening is that the garbage is sitting in front of him, but what he's keeping, he's putting behind him to differentiate what is trash and what's not. I honestly think this was kind of a bit of a misunderstanding. This could just be a miscommunication. You know, we all slip up, we all talk fast, we say shit we don't mean. Multitasking failure. It just kind of happens sometimes. Really, this is such an easy thing to get out of. I'll show you. This is what Michael needs to do in order to get out of this situation. Hey girlies, so recently folks have been criticizing me for a recent unboxing video I posted where I was sort of trying to talk and do two things at once, and it made it look like I was throwing away fan mail when that's not what I was doing. I still have the blanket. It's right here. I just misworded myself. My bad. But he didn't do that. He just kind of denied getting a blanket altogether.
And people are like, oh, he donated a handmade blanket. Someone commented, it was me, it was my handmade blanket. I feel some type of way, but bitch, no the fuck you didn't. I never got no fucking handmade blanket. Like,
okay, so like, why? You know what this is? This is the equivalent of getting into a car accident while the car is parked. You had an easy opportunity to get out of this and you just kind of made it worse for no reason. Now, obviously, Blanket Gate isn't like the absolute worst thing ever. He just kind of came out of it looking stupid. But like, think of this as like an iceberg chart, right? The deeper down you go, the worse it's gonna get. I think I missed the opportunity to call this the Michael Duvall iceberg and get like millions of views off of gimmick content. Thick.
it's easy for me to lie on TikTok and not show fully what's going on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, whatever, but I can't lie to you about it because it's a lot harder.
Now, because Michael is a TikToker, an aesthetics girly, and the most Aryan-looking man to ever exist, Michael has a history of being racist. You know, it's always like some beauty influencer with like a singular color aesthetic, like beige or something, that has a history of racism. Usually it's always like a video that comes out of some social media star saying the N-word once whilst they're drinking and getting drunk in their bestie's bathroom or something.
I'm not gonna say it. That's not how I am. Please imagine like saying.
But Michael was supplying the word openly on Twitter like he had the pass. I mean, motherfucker was out here saying it like he owned a pretty pink plantation. Like, I hate to break it to you, Michael, but I think you're a few shades too light to be saying it once, let alone 30 times. This Asian lady on the plane tried to act like she didn't understand me. I told her ass, bitch, you gotta know English today, cause that's my seat. Okay, you know what? I'm just gonna talk about this now. I'm gonna say this, okay, so I don't get a lazy racism exposed controversy. I'm just gonna say it now, and you can hear it from my own goddamn lips, okay? I said that Black Lives Matter sucked when I was like 16 years old. I made a video about it. It sucked. I was uneducated and used horrendous arguments that just made me look ignorant and stupid. I used to say that non-binary people were not real and the whole fad was stupid and a threat to real trans people. And look at me now. I used to spout all of the typical 2015 anti-SJW talking points. I used to watch Andy Worski. Unironically, my father bought one of those like stupid Keck flags. I'm not kidding. It is just as embarrassing as it seems. So, similar to Michael, I too was also raised by brain-dead conservatives that push their ideology onto their children. That's not an excuse, but it is an explanation. And I am sorry that I was ever an anti-SJW edgy asshole kid on the internet. I honestly had no clue half the time what I was talking about during that era. I clearly don't think that way now, and it took a lot of deconstruction to realize a lot of the reason why I acted the way I did back then was because I was extremely closeted. And, you know, maybe Michael was the same way. He was raised conservative, clearly. He's a very openly gay femboy online now. I have to believe that a lot of this was rooted in extreme fragility in their masculinity and also isolation in being like a gay person in a conservative family. You know, you kind of have to blend in to be accepted by those you grew up with and loved. I did this by making an anti-SJW character. Michael did this by saying the N-word 30 times. I mean, he is from Kentucky, and if you know anything about Kentucky, this is like a regular occurrence. Since we're looking at his Twitter activity, aside from being racist, he also said some really weird shit regarding rape, begging for someone to rape him or wishing rape onto others. What I find most concerning was in 2015, he was posting about a match he made on Grindr. Now, I've read somewhere that Michael was born in 1999, so in 2015 he would have been 16 years old on Grindr, so that might explain the daddy dom fetish, but we're not there yet.
Seriously, tell me how y'all be having these kids, like newborn babies, because I have like a newborn kitten I'm trying to nurse back to life right now, and every 2 seconds I'm like looking over like, oh my god, are you alive? Oh my god, are you still breathing?
So this is something I don't see a lot of people talk about. I mean, you know, in comparison to everything else that has come out recently, I can see maybe people's focus being elsewhere, but I wanted to talk about it because I love cats, and this personally upsets me. So at some point, Michael found a calico kitten abandoned on his porch, and so he started making content trying to revive the kitten. Now, a lot of people thought that this cat was being used essentially for content. Views are low, let's rescue a cat. But not in like the fake rescue video kind of way, but more so in a like, I want to show how good of a person I am kind of way. People in the TikTok comments were telling Michael to take him to a vet. This kitten looked very, very young. It had to be less than a week old, so it needed to be seen by a doctor if it was exposed to the elements without its mother. Plus, kittens do have like a high mortality rate. About 27% of kittens do die a few days after they're born, so seeing how young this cat was, if Michael wanted to guarantee its survival, he needed to see a professional that can help get it everything it needs. But instead of doing that, because the kitten was out in the cold, Michael decided to put it on a heating pad, which honestly, I don't think is like necessarily a bad idea, but I know that a lot of heating pads, if like on the highest setting, can like burn and have like really bad overheating and electrical problems. But you know, it does have a low setting for a reason, so maybe on its lowest setting it would have been fine. But on top of putting it on a heating pad, Michael decided to dry it out with a hairdryer.
He was moving so much, like he was not moving at all, but then when I got the heat on him, I force-fed him some kitten milk that I just Instacarted. Just gonna keep my eye on him. He definitely still seems cold and just want to be under the heat for now. I force-fed him until he didn't want it anymore, so I'm just going to hope that this baby makes it.
Yeah, so inadvertently, Michael fried this cat alive. Now, with this situation, similar to Blanketgate, I just have to kind of assume that Michael is just dumb? I own 2 of these fucking things. I don't always know what's best for them or how to take care of them. That's what a vet is for. And the thing is, I'm broke. It can be very expensive to see a vet. Michael was not. I don't know what the excuse would have been, other than maybe, like, you just couldn't for some reason. Maybe the vet was too far away, or closed on weekends, or whatever. And all of that I can completely understand, but really, a hot-ass hairdryer with a kitten that small? I mean, this shouldn't shock you, since the man tends to hold his other cats like he has the grip of a 5-year-old. I don't honestly think this cat is super thrilled to be experiencing the grip of 87.
My God!
Okay, so these are the more recent allegations that have accumulated in a loss of over 200,000 followers on TikTok. We're gonna issue a bit of a content warning because this is gonna get really fucking gross and weird. A common theme throughout all of this is Michael pissing people off because he's just kinda dumb. Like overheating a 1-week-old kitten with a hairdryer, stupid, horribly wrong, killing kittens, even on accident cause you don't know what you're doing, is gonna upset people. However, this is something that you can see as just a dumbass not knowing how to take care of a baby animal, right? As unfortunate as that was, you can see how that would have happened through someone just being stupid, not maliciously killing kittens for fun, or the whole blanket gate thing. I mean, that was shitty, but that was unintentionally shitty. Like, it literally would have taken like 5 seconds to address. It really was just a miswording of some kind or a misunderstanding. And although I think a lot of Michael's actions can be linked to just him being stupid, and I still want to believe he's not overtly malicious, it gets to a point where you really can't continue to use the stupidity excuse forever. Like, at some point, you just kind of have to accept that someone needs to investigate this man. There were a few other things Michael did before this recent stunt that had people being like, okay, so girly, we know that you've done dumb shit, but I'm pretty sure most of this shit is illegal. Such as the time that he broke into his old family home that he grew up in, committing a breaking and entering.
There's no way someone lives here. If someone lives here, they do drugs. That's like the scary thing. Like, they will shoot me because they do drugs. Let me pull up just a little bit farther. Oh no, it's a soda machine. I used to have a tanning bed in here. This is definitely trespassing. The fact that it's turned on, I'm gonna go. You can't live there. Well, I just want to look. There's nothing left.
Or the time that he admitted that he's a little buzzed under the influence of alcohol while he was driving.
And I drank like 1.5 drinks, maybe like a little buzz, but within the legal limit, just know that. And I don't know what I'm gonna do now. I'm just gonna sit here for just a second.
But none of that would garner the concern or the demand for a police investigation, as does this recent controversy surrounding his OnlyFans. So, as explained by Michael in his infamous apology video, which we're gonna discuss separately, Michael started his OnlyFans page in 2020. This was a year after he started posting to TikTok, and at the time, he was unemployed and wasn't super successful. It wasn't until he started going viral on TikTok did he pick it back up again, with the encouragement of his ex-fiancée, Lopez or TJ. Michael claims that the OnlyFans content really started with the encouragement of his ex in order to spice up their relationship, but after they broke up, instead of just, not continuing the OnlyFans anymore, he independently kept it up. Now, I just want to say this and put this out there, right? I know that OnlyFans content creators, or just anyone who does like sex work online, does kind of garner a bad rep. There is a lot of dehumanizing online when it comes to risque content creators, and I think that devaluing someone for doing something that they're old enough to do, for one, and two, doesn't hurt anyone, especially for a lot of LGBTQ people, it can be a liberating thing and an exploration of their gender identity and their sexual expression. When they themselves make that choice to be a part of that world, it's like, could you just mind your business? They're adults. Let them do whatever, so long as it's not hurting anybody or doing something illegal. You do you, and I'll do me. We won't do each other. Probably. It's a part of my affiliation to my political upstart that I like to call mind your business and shut the fuck up. But yeah, more power to you. Like, I'm certainly not confident or sexy enough to start an OnlyFans, but if you want to do that, it's a free country. Kinda. No, not really. Okay, in an ideal free world, I'd encourage people to do whatever makes them happy, so long as it doesn't negatively affect anyone else. This, however, is a bit of a different story. Michael's OnlyFans consist of content that is either femboy or like gender bent related, so you'll see a lot of his content consist of him wearing wigs and wearing girly clothes, which made people for a while believe that he was fetishizing trans people because he himself isn't trans, but he just likes dressing up in women's clothes and wearing wigs, and honestly, it's kind of an entire different conversation on whether femboys inherently sexualize or fetishize trans people or not, but the issue just kept compiling into something much, much worse. You see, during his time online, Michael worked as a preschool or daycare teacher, and there were already a few, like, safety concerns regarding that. There has been, like, an ongoing conversation on whether people who work closely with children or have their own kids should be doing sex work on the internet, mainly for like reputational reasons. It could be seen as like unprofessional or embarrassing. Say you're a teacher and one of your students finds your OnlyFans, or you're a parent whose son finds it or his friends find it. And I think people were having that concern with Michael, especially since in his videos, he would accidentally dox the daycare he worked at. You can clearly see at the top of this sheet, Laughter and Lullabies Daycare, which, by the way, is no longer in operation. Not because of the stuff with Michael, although the hiring track record is a bit concerning. But that's not what we're talking about, though. What we're talking about is Michael apparently posting content to his OnlyFans from this daycare.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. I am disgusted.
And guys, this is... oh my god. Now, fortunately, none of these kids have ever walked in and saw anything this guy was doing. Neither were any of the children directly involved in the content. It seems like this was only made aware to the staff after the fact when he posted it to his OnlyFans. But that doesn't mean, with all of the other added context, that this doesn't come across as extremely creepy and inappropriate. For instance, there's this video of Michael pulling down his pants and goat-seeing himself in this daycare bathroom. This clearly is not his own personal bathroom at home, because his bathroom was all pink at the time, and these green tiles here can also be seen in another video that Michael posted. As Michael himself admits, he would go into the bathroom of this daycare and snap a nude and then post it.
I did go to the bathroom a few times and snap a nude. A lot of the reason why I did that was because I was getting paid by people, and now when I said that, people thought I was getting paid by like I don't know if you can say this word, PDF files, you know what I'm trying to say. People thought I was catering to them, and now with some of those Reddit groups I was in, I should not have been in. They were definitely like dad, son, trans girls. I got kicked out of a lot of groups for like not even fitting the criteria.
One of these nudes had the caption of, "I shouldn't be doing this here," with a little devil emoji. One reads, "Did you see the pre-cum fly out?" And this one is actually a video, not a picture. Now, I've never watched the video myself, nor will I ever, but comments that have seen the video described Michael whipping his dick out and then masturbating and coming on a child-sized toilet. Humanity is evil. A lot of the type of fetish content that Michael would appeal to and put out there makes all of this the more disturbing. As he admits, there was a lot of Reddit groups that he was involved in that involved things such as daddy's son, and even transgender sex work threads. Not only confirming that the fetishizing of trans people that he was accused of doing was in fact true, but also exposing the types of fetishes he really was into that, compared to being a preschool teacher, was really not a good look. Now, this is a weird detail in his apology video. He says that although this was something he did in the preschool bathroom, this bathroom was on the second floor and was a bathroom for teachers and staff, not children. But looking at the actual building, there doesn't appear to be a second floor. But at the same time, this TikTok where Michael shows us a day in the life of a preschool teacher shows that he is going up and down some flight of stairs. So maybe this was like an elevated building on a slope and that's what gave it 2 stories on like a technicality, but it just shows there was some foresight and a thought process to get away with doing this shit. There's an awareness to what he's doing is wrong. There's a thought process here to do it sneakingly so that no one would notice. And believe it or not, this was something that he skirted past addressing for over a year. Yeah, it turns out people had known and had been trying to spread the word of this content for over a year, but it just never got as big as it did up until now. How is that possible when it's publicly out there on OnlyFans and anyone could pay to see and verify that it exists? Well, whenever it was brought up, Michael would silence the opposition by deleting comments or just getting videos taken down. And this, to me, goes beyond just the fact that Michael is dumb. I mean, he is, but like, there is so much premeditation here and acknowledgement of what he's doing is wrong. And his apology video is yet another example of how he makes everything so much worse.
And she was like, yeah, my mom just passed away. And I was like, girl, like, don't try to get sympathy from me.
The influencer apology. So horrible, so manipulative, so, well, bad. What the fuck am I doing, bro? I know there's been a discussion before on how to properly apologize, how to make a good apology, and yet despite the years we've been having this discussion, we still get stinker after stinker after stinker. So I guess since this is just gonna be a constant at this point, fuck it. Let's talk about what makes a bad apology, because that's all we're ever gonna get. We have tons of examples of bad apology videos. Like, it's such a large margin that I can only think of like 3 videos that were actual genuine good apologies. The rest are fucking ass. But within all of this ass is a commonality of shit. Number 1, emotional manipulation. So I wanted to get real specific about this because I'm sure when you think of like how people emotionally manipulate in an apology video, you're probably gonna assume that I'm talking about someone crying on camera to seem remorseful or just being extremely emotional overall, and I don't think this is entirely fair of an assessment, because look, admitting faults is really hard to do. Saying that you fucked up can be difficult for some people, especially to an angry crowd that's already out for your throat. Emotions naturally will run high from shame or embarrassment, and the bluntness and harshness of those who you are apologizing to, obviously that's gonna make you a little upset. Like, crying is the least of my issues. I get it, you're sad that people don't like you right now, in the current moment. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is how a person will take people's understandable criticism and anger and convert that into making the audience feel bad for making you address it at all. Basically, a bad influencer apology will make an audience feel bad for making the influencer have to apologize in the first place. And to show you exactly what I'm talking about, we can directly look at Michael's apology because it does it to a T. This video opens up with how the OnlyFans started, which I guess is not unnecessary information since that is where all of this controversy is kind of rooted in, so it would make sense to bring it up. But this first segment is mostly just explaining how the OF account really started, only because of an abusive ex-fiance.
While we were still together, we were very much struggling with like sex and like just having that appeal with each other. So one thing he suggested to kind of get us going was for me to restart my OnlyFans. And then if I was making money from what we were doing, we would be like more motivated to do it more often. That was never enough. And then it went from doing that to he convinced me to do threesomes. So we did a couple threesomes, and now his parents were swingers. So it makes sense that he would be into all this stuff that I was never going to be enough. but I rode with it because we just got engaged and I was trying to stay together. I didn't want to be alone. After the threesomes weren't really doing much for us, it just got to a point where he would go hook up with people and it was okay if we saw other people pretty much. I never did it, but he did it a lot of times. I said no whenever he first suggested that I start my OnlyFans, and then it was a lot of convincing. So then I started it again, and then it was a lot of convincing for the threesomes. It was a lot of convincing for the doing it with other people. And then it got to the point where we broke up anyways. Now, a lot of people know why we broke up. He was very much abusive. He had anger issues. I mean, not just physically abusive, but mentally abusive. And the thing is, when you're gay, one of you's the bottom, one of you's the top, typically, not always. And so I was the bottom, and I just wasn't putting out as much as he wanted. He ideally wanted that every single day. And so that's why I was like, well, for us to be happy together, I'm fine with you doing it with other people.
And now that part I don't necessarily think was needed, especially if you're claiming to take accountability. If you are going to be owning up to your actions, why would you bring your ex into it? By the time you were posting OnlyFans content at this preschool, you were single. That was all on you, girlie. You were the one making that decision. Why did you bring any of this up? Well, I'll tell you why. He's trying to play victim. That this whole thing just spawns from an abusive relationship, so really all of this starting was the fault of this perceived bad guy. It's making the audience feel as if they can't criticize what Michael did too much because he's a survivor of an abusive relationship. So perhaps it really wasn't his fault, and he's more so a victim of circumstance. Michael is trying to get the audience to believe this was something he was forced to do, rather than something he willingly participated in, which he did, because by the point that he's working at this daycare, he was working independently from his abusive ex. So even though this was a way to emotionally manipulate by turning the blame on someone else, it doesn't work because of just the timeline. Lopez, this perceived villain, was no longer in the picture when he was posting from the daycare, so how could this be something he was convinced into doing by his ex when he wasn't even there? Number 2. Wasting your time. Usually a good apology won't pussyfoot around what the issue is and just get straight to the point, right? Hey, I fucked up. This is how I'm gonna be better. I'm sorry. Pretty simple, right? Yet Michael wants to waste my motherfucking time. This video is over 10 minutes long. He really maximized the length a typical TikTok can be. And I have to assume that this was intentional so that people with like really short attention spans won't watch or care to know what's going on. Except for nosy bitches like me. Also, weirdly, he talks about having a conversation with 2 girls from the church. I'm guessing they were like the door-to-door folks that try to recruit people to Jesus or whatever.
What's up, girlie? I just had 2 really sweet girls from a church come knock on my door, and they pretty much said, like, do you remember requesting to learn about the word of Jesus? And so I just said no, but I have a lot of followers. I'm getting a lot of hate right now, so that's who sent you. And they were really nice, really understanding, and then they went on their way. But I figure we need to address it, or else people will never know the truth. People will never know my story.
And I cannot for the life of me figure out why he would even mention the church thing or God at all, other than to get people to go easier on him because he's religious. It's not working. Like at all. In fact, I just feel like you're giving me more useless information that isn't necessary. I guess this is just another way to emotionally manipulate, but it more so just kind of feels like a redirect, which again is wasting my fucking time. A lot of this time wasting is spent usually being very vague about what they did, over-explaining the timeline of events with details that are not needed or asked, or just throwing in random tidbits of information to throw people off. Number 3, alienating from the issue. This is something that you've seen Shane Dawson do in Apologies, treating yourself as if the person who did the bad thing is not the same person as who you are now. And Michael does this by expressing that during the time of these events, he was doing a lot of things then that he just wouldn't do now.
There really is no excuse, but I do want to just let you know that the person I've been on social media this whole last few years, the person you've seen me grow into the last year specifically, that's the person who I am today. And so that's why I acted so removed from that, and almost like I didn't care or something because it was so long ago in my mind that it's not I didn't care, it's just it doesn't resonate with me anymore.
Everything that happened was a version of himself that he just doesn't recognize. Even when he posted to his OnlyFans from the daycare, the first time he did it, he apparently didn't remember doing it.
Fast forward to the day I took my first nude at work, I honestly don't remember it.
And it's like, bro, these are publicly out there. What do you mean you don't remember? If you needed a reminder, you can check the OnlyFans account that you operate and own. It really undermines the apology by separating the actions from their identity, when really, in that moment, they were that person. Look, this ain't no Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde situation. This is a singular entity, and you have to answer for the actions of the singular you. Number 4. Timing. Now, I think this point really comes down to circumstances. Sometimes an apology takes a really long time to assess what you did, what you want to say, how you want to respond. That's all fine and good. Taking your time to address your thoughts and words is totally fine. You know, sometimes shooting straight from the hip and rushing to make an apology could result in someone failing to really understand what they're actually apologizing for. They just know they're in trouble and they just need to say anything. And without thinking that through, that sometimes can just be a bunch of word salad that doesn't really make any sense. It is totally fine to take your time when addressing a controversy. But somehow Michael both took too long and also rushed this apology out at the same time? Because this was an issue that has been brewing for well over a year. It took a whole ass year for him to finally say something, and you'd think with this much time spent he was gonna address it all in fine detail, but somehow this whole thing just feels so rushed and tone deaf. The lack of any emotions or remorse and just rambling off any excuse he can think of. Oh, I was just enamored by the money I was making.
A lot of the reason why I did that was because I was getting paid by people, and now it was definitely weird, but when you're in sex work, I don't know, I was just too blinded by the money that was coming in. I know that's no excuse.
In sex work, it's just sort of like that sometimes.
It was definitely weird, but when you're in sex work, I don't know, I was just too blinded by the money that was coming in.
I was on a lot of drugs.
I was also doing a lot of drugs, and I know I said I didn't want to bring up any excuses.
I was trying to stand out by having that shock factor and clickbait. That was a real thing he said, by the way. The reason why he did all of this at a daycare was because he was trying to be shocking and garnering clicks.
Those people did not know where I worked. Those people did not care where I work. I remember I did post in some of those groups before, like, I'm a teacher. I was trying to have that shock factor. I was trying to have that thing that makes me kind of different. A lot of the captions and the things I would use, like, I know I shouldn't be doing this here, I would use as clickbait, because I know whenever you post like that on your OnlyFans, people can see your captions, but they can't see the stuff that you're actually posting.
Straight to jail. How do you take a whole ass year to respond, but throughout that whole ass year, you do not think through what you're gonna say? Like, that is astounding. It really is giving, I have to make an apology video because the issue has now gotten too big for me to just ignore it outright. That's what's happening here. Number 5. Not saying the words, I'm sorry. So usually to avoid admitting fault, the words, I'm sorry is rarely ever said in an apology video, ironically enough. Because saying sorry means that you're admitting there is something you have to apologize for, meaning you have to admit you fucked up. And that's something that a lot of people just cannot do for the life of them. And this is where Michael actually kind of came in clutch, because the words, I'm sorry, did come out of his mouth, actually.
Love you guys who have been supporting me so much. Thank you everyone who's reached out to me, and I just want to say I'm sorry to everyone I disappointed.
Congratulations, Michael, you did it. I am just as shocked as everyone else. I honestly didn't think we would get this far. And I think if this whole video trimmed the fat and got rid of all of the unnecessary details, removed the victim complex, Michael is like so close to getting the point, but all of that is ruined by how he is, number 6, downplaying the issue. A lot of the reason why Michael thought it was important to address this now was not because it was wrong and he wanted to denounce what he did and accept responsibility, it was because social media painted that out to be so much worse than what it actually was.
People have a way of making it sound a lot worse than it really was, and I know it was bad, but there was truly no ill intention.
Now, I agree a lot of online controversy can be played up to their worst interpretations because people will usually draw conclusions and opinions that will go to the absolute worst case scenario. But according to Michael, he didn't even address it over a year ago when it became a problem because he felt disillusioned by it. That's not who he is now, so there's really no need to talk about it.
I guess I just don't really know what else to say, and I didn't really want to say anything just because I feel like that's not who I am anymore, so that's why I ignored it. I know this video is going to be so long. I know you don't even care about that.
The separation of himself and his past, alienating the issue like we already discussed, but the only reason this is being addressed now is because people were just drawing so many hurtful conclusions and saying so many hurtful things and calling him so many hurtful names, like suggesting that he made content to cater to pedophiles, which, I mean, look, dude, if you're gonna spread your cheeks to the sounds of kids in the background and jack off on a child-sized toilet with a potty trainer sitting right next to it, I mean, who else do you think is gonna find this hot? Like, to any normal-ass dude, a child screaming is probably gonna be really distracting when he's getting a fistful of his manhood. Like, a child just existing in the same room as you should be a massive cockblock. But apparently, that doesn't stop you from giving a paying audience a self-colonoscopy. You have to have known, at least to some extent, what kind of audience is gonna be attracted just based on location alone. And the worst part is, this was so close. Like, he came so close to the point and yet just could not get there. Like, the admittance of fault is there, the explanation for why he made these choices is here, and the apologizing and accepting that there will be consequences, like the loss of a following or police possibly getting involved, people en masse hating him.
I know there's people who are still going to hate me. I know there's people who are never going to believe me no matter what, and I just wanted to come on here and tell my truth. I've never told the full story about how I began, so hopefully this gives you some insight. And whether you choose to support me or not is completely up to you. If you can't move on, I totally get it. Block me, unfollow me, do what you have to do.
All of this is checking off all of the boxes. It's just that it's getting outweighed by everything else he said. And of course, given that this is the masses of the online world, there are gonna be people who are gonna be angry no matter what. And that just kind of comes with the fact that not everyone needs to accept your apology. A lot of influencers see an apology video as something they need to make to repair their reputation. And if they're still getting backlash even after the fact, they're like, well, why are y'all still hating on me? I apologize, is that not enough? It's not that it wasn't enough, it's just that people don't have to accept an apology. Even if it is a good one, people don't have to forgive you. And that's their right to do. If they feel like they have to pull their support or that what you did was just too big of a betrayal, then let them have those feelings. Making people feel bad for not accepting your apology is not gonna make an apology seem genuine because you're showcasing that the apology that you're giving was something that you did out of an obligation, a necessity to repair your reputation and relationship to your fan base, not because you actually felt bad. But it's not like Michael did any of that. No, he just ignored the issue until it became too big to ignore, rushed out an apology, rambled on a bunch of excuses, said he was sorry, and then continued posting as if nothing happened.
Because I literally worked with Michael Duvall at that daycare, at that same daycare. Like, I was his coworker for a very long time. And he would literally go to the bathroom so much throughout the day. Like, it was literally talk at the job that we thought that he was on something, you know.
Now, since his apology, Michael's ex has come forward to tell his side of the story. I'm gonna read directly what he had to say. I never forced him or pushed him to do anything. OF was his idea for extra money. I had nothing to do with any profiles or content. It was just a win for me because extra money and extra ass, honestly. No, I was not the greatest partner. I slept around constantly and I screamed a lot. I was at a point where I was still working on myself, but I was never physically abusive with him. I pushed him off one time the last time we fought because he grabbed and squeezed my nuts, but other than that, I never laid a finger on him. And for sure, never forced or even pushed him to do anything. One of Michael's family members also responded on Facebook. I believe this is his sister, who also responded on Reddit. And although for a while Michael had a strained relationship with his family, rumor has it that they really don't like how he conducts himself online with the whole like pink girly pop thing. But his sister seems supportive, so that's at least a light in this dark tunnel for a gay man in a conservative family. The unconditional love of your sister, your first ever gal bestie. The problem is, this is how she went about defending her brother.
First off, you're late as fuck. This shit's been aired out a whole year now. Second, why you haha my comment 10 hours ago, and then hours ago you're back again with something to say. It took you 4 hours to come up with that weak ass comment. He's grown. Don't got a damn thing to do with me. So I'm still unsure why you tagging me. Now again, I be damned if I go back and forth with a motherfucker, hiding behind a screen, tagging me like this is the business that pays me. The hell? Go play in traffic. My mother and how she raised him has nothing to do with however you view him. Keep my mum out of it. I'm tired of your lonely, bored, bitter, no job having, bullying, dumbass, nothing better to do ass people. This shit been going on way too long. You can't really be this pressed over the next motherfucking life you don't even know. I don't fuck with my brother, but you got my whole family at this point fucked up. Some things you are saying is by far a stretch, it's wild fr. You gotta stop. Let this boy live his life. And mind the business that pays you. And again, keep my mother out of it.
Look, I don't want to come across as rude, okay? I don't want to, like, make fun of people for things they can't control, like how they talk, or how they were raised, or whatever. I just have a question. Does everyone in this family have some form of speech impediment? Look, I know Michael said that he wasn't best with his words, but, like, what the fuck was that? Like, this is not a defense. This is Mama June's vent post. What are we doing? In conclusion, the world is terrible and humanity is awful. Okay, but no, seriously, I wanted to discuss how the fuck we even got to this point, because, you know, y'all know me. I like to understand why people are like this. And you know, I think we have a few explanations why, and I think it does certainly say a lot about society. So one of the things that Michael says in this apology video is that the location really wasn't strategic. It could have been at his house, in a mall bathroom, the library. If someone sent him money for a quick nude, he would just take it real quick and make some side cash fast. And people tend not to believe it due to how many of these posts were at the daycare. Like, it wasn't just the one video, it was a good few posts. It wasn't the mass majority, obviously, but enough to say that's not right. A lot of people say it was for the sake of sexualizing himself in a kid's setting, thus appealing to pedophiles. I think there's plenty of reasonable speculation to say that both can be true at once. I'm more so personally leaning towards the money aspect of all of this. Michael claims that his whole life he grew up poor. For most of his social media career, he was filming in a trailer, which usually is lower income housing. Michael very well could have been poor for the mass majority of his time online. I mean, he only recently moved into a house sometime last year, so it's not like the trailer chapter of his life was all that long ago. I can understand when you need that instant money fix. You know, you don't get paid until like 2 weeks from now and you need money now. And with direct payments from clients being like, give me a quick nude, I need it now, I can see how it could lead to people going into just a private spot, like a public restroom, taking a quick snap, and then just going about the rest of your day. I mean, you have to remember that, like, taking videos or photos being explicit and sexual out in a public space is like a whole genre of pornography. Do you guys remember when Whitney, Wisconsin had her dildo up her ass in public, or when she made people smell her fingers after shoving them up her vag? Yeah, same shit. I mean, I guess this is a little worse because, you know, it's at a daycare, you know, toddler element to it. But you get what I'm saying, you know, being a public gooner is like a whole thing. I think a lot of this comes down to like the lack of community policing and doing literally anything for money. But here's the thing, even though this is based on like gooning in public for money, even though I'm not outright accusing Michael of pedophilia just on the basis that kids weren't directly involved, I still think that this is like incredibly creepy and does hurt people. And I want to bring more attention to who this really hurts, because if kids are not being abused, then what negative impacts does this really have? I mean, kids kind of indirectly, but more so directly are the parents that trusted Michael, only for him to use what is supposed to be a safe space for children as a porno photo op. I mean, look, childcare is already like expensive as is in the US, but it's also like a very scary avenue to rely on as a parent. You have to put your child in the care of a trusted adult that isn't a family friend or isn't you. And you're trying to rest assure yourself that it's gonna be fine, only to find out this trusted adult was whipping his dick out on his downtime. I would be mortified. Like, how hard is it to just wait until you're in the privacy and comfort of your own home? Don't be doing that shit in what's supposed to be a child's safe space. Not to mention, with this childcare element and Michael being gay. Oh, honey, this is a conservative's wet dream. They've been pushing for decades how gay people are just ops to try and groom kids, and this is their perfect beating horse. They'll run this fucking story into the ground if it means that they can push the gays are groomers agenda that they love to peddle. This is their broad stroke of the brush. Instead of thinking rationally and just accepting that sometimes there are straight weirdos and there are sometimes gay weirdos, it doesn't really matter the sexuality when the commonality is that they're being a degenerate. But hey, not everyone can use that big, beautiful brain to conjure up a rational thought. Sometimes we're chiroranchic. Aside from the gays, the theys, and the pink girly renegades, there's also sex workers in general. Like, sex work is already so demonized, and this, for sure, is not helping. And like I mentioned earlier, with the lack of self-policing from those in sex work, the human degradation is only gonna get worse. I think there are a lot of rational, respectful, smart, and sophisticated people in sex work that understand, you know, time and place, boundaries, and when to turn on the sex appeal when it's appropriate, and when to turn it off when it's not. Sex workers are self-aware and self-disciplined to keep that shit at work, in the bedroom. But like I said, pushing the boundaries in sex work isn't new. But like I said, pushing the boundaries in sex work isn't new. People publicly engaging in sexual activity is pretty common. And since I'm not in the field, I'm not here to like police where I'm not allowed or experted in. But to be honest, I don't really think I need to be when it should be pretty common practice to not diddle yourself at a daycare. Now, a lot of people think that there should be some like legal investigation into this. Michael should serve some jail time, and like, I'm not an expert in the law. I don't know what prosecuting that would even entail, let alone like what laws have been broken. Considering, you know, a bathroom is inherently a private space, I'd imagine the most you could do is like charge with like public lewdness, but since a child was never directly involved, it's not like you can charge him for being like a child predator or something. It's not that extreme, it's just very degenerate and weird. I will say this though, I don't think Michael should have an OnlyFans platform. Obviously, he has proven he's not responsible for one, let alone social media at all. And considering how reckless he was, not just with this, but like even in addressing this on TikTok, I really don't think going forward he should have TikTok, YouTube, any of that. Clearly, money is a big drive for him doing immoral things, and online money especially results in pretty poor decision making. So I just think that that's only fair. So, moral of the story, don't goon in a school.
Special thank you to the donors over on Patreon. For $1 or $5 a month, you can achieve early access to content, exclusive content, podcast content, and a little drawing of yourself. Special thank you to the $5 dreamy patrons: PalmTopDuck, WTHarley, Koloni, ShyGuyDoc I, Dudeman Kewl, Pandora Mask, Brandon Knapp, Ruadhán, Vivi, MZTL Overlord, Calescent Carnage, sashahenriksen,
Kit luna-jade, yerba, Tusskie, Draco system, average Khorne worshipper, snoozingscribbles. Please play Lisa the Pointless, it's really good. Vetra Vakarian, Meekwood, Moomin, Red Blaze 27, Reginald Rencington, DemiBirdDoes, CarbonIML, Alder Garibay, Fandom the Hoe, MellowMylo, John X Woodcat, Walls X Migraine, L Peace, Magnolia, Sky, the Ğ00И one, Bacon Pierogi, The Lorelock, Seraphim, Mew Too Late, Amber Lay, John Fannin, The Piper at Dawn, Jordan Ogle, Mamiko Megamin, Grimmy, Average Citrus User, Bob, Jellyfish Princess, Fun Stuffies, Trippy, Rudy Jazz, Rice Maddie, and Pastel UFOs. I've been a lazy bedhead, and remember to stay goony. I mean, lazy. Fuck.
The end.